So thank you for being here today, everybody. We're really excited to have Tim Bern here with us from Disco, but this has been a highly anticipated call because I think most of us here use Disco now. And there's still some questions I think people have lingering, and then there's people still just kind of getting used to the platform and want to know more about it. So we're pretty excited to have you here. Thank you, Tim, for joining today. Um, and yeah, so I just want to give a little background on Pandion really quick. For those who aren't familiar, we just started running these workshops in October. We're a 501c3 online music platform for emerging artists who are looking to find more information about the industry to help grow their careers. And all of our workshops and offerings are free, so we're able to reach communities that might not otherwise have the means to access that information. So yeah, we're really excited to be running these workshops once a week with different industry professionals that lead each one. Um, and we have a pretty wide array of themes for each week. So it's pretty exciting that we can offer that. And we also have a really cool event coming up that I just wanted to remind people of from April 10th to 12th. We're doing the Sync-a-Blue LA Sync Festival with two indie. And it's going to be an in-person event as well as there's going to be some online opportunities, live stream opportunities too. So if you're not based in LA, you can still participate. And you can find that information on our website, on our event calendar. We have the link to the in-person tickets and then the Syncathon, which is a sync focused like listening session type event that will be on the 10th. And that will be free for those who want to participate via the live stream. So we're very excited about that. And yeah, so I'll just do a quick introduction for Tim. Tim Bern's the head of education at DISCO.ac, which is a music and media industry standard for cataloging, discovery, and promotion. He helped launch Disco in Los Angeles in 2016 and has since onboarded and trained thousands of people, including music supervisors, sync creatives, radio promoters, ARs, managers, artists, and more. And Tim's experience has provided him with a wealth of practical knowledge from the front lines of the industry, which he shares through the School of Disco courses, which I'm sure he'll talk about more, and articles and live sessions. So yeah, very excited to have you here, Tim. Thank you for joining this morning. And
Thank you.
early for you in New Zealand.
Not as early as you in Australia.
Yeah, so if you want to just maybe give a little bit more of your background to start us off and just introduce yourself a little more and how you got involved in all of this would be amazing to hear that.
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's always fun to meet new people and see new faces. So my background, I'm from New Zealand originally, but I've got citizenship in the States. So I've lived back and forward between New York and LA and Auckland over the years. I started as a jazz musician actually, so I've sort of been on the performing side, playing lots of gigs and teaching heaps of music in the olden days. And then I worked in restaurants, as all professional jazz musicians probably do as well, to the point of owning a restaurant. But that's all pre-disco. I came back to New Zealand after this restaurant experience in New York and started doing music supervision. And I'd managed bands kind of in between all of that as well, and tour managed in the UK. So I came back, got asked to take up this role working with ad agencies in New Zealand on behalf of Level 2, which is an Australian music supervision company. And I knew about music supervision and sync as a band manager, sort of around 2010, 11, 12, but I didn't really know that much about it. And I definitely didn't have relationships with ad agencies. So I just started going out and meeting these, ad people, and they'd bring us a job. Hey, we need to find music for this Toyota ad. And then I'd sort of co-search with the team in Australia, and then we'd find the rights and license the music. Well, in the background, we were building Disco, which was just a way to get off of iTunes and Dropbox. We had a whole team of people that would do the same search, and we'd brief out all the different labels and publishers and sync companies, receive all this music, and then we'd all be downloading it, putting it in our own iTunes, listening to it, making playlists, uploading our own playlists to send to our own team members who would download them and put them in iTunes, find the best tracks, then upload those playlists and send them off to the client. Then the clients are like, this is okay, but can we do another round? And then that whole process would start again. And that was day-to-day life back like 2013, 14, 15. So Disco got us into this single cloud space where we combined all our libraries together, all our iTunes, were put in there and all our playlists, and we'd receive all this music from the different rights holders directly into Disco. We'd search together, we could see each other's playlists, and then obviously share the playlists with our clients from that. And then some other people started thinking, or asking us, how are we managing this process, like larger teams at publishers? And we sort of showed them Disco, and I thought that was interesting. And then we thought, maybe we should turn this into a thing that other people can have. At the same time, I had met my wife, and she worked in advertising, totally unrelated to me starting to do stuff with ad agencies. And she was keen to live in the States, and I was ready to live in LA because I'd never lived there before. And so I told Level 2, hey, I'm going to move to LA. Do you want me to do something there? And they said, why don't you launch, do you want to launch Disco or show people how to use it or something? And I said, okay, yeah, let's give that a go. And that was, the beginning of 2016. I landed in LA, and we just started showing people Disco in its second iteration, I guess. We kind of reskinned it. It was a very ugly gray box originally. And then we made it a little bit prettier. And yeah, I just started meeting supervisors and sync teams like, Terrorbird and Bankrobber and Zinc and all these different people. And they're like, oh, wow, this is great. Because they all had exactly the same problem. They were on iTunes and Dropbox or Box, and their teams couldn't see each other's work. They were always concerned about the metadata being the same when they were sharing tracks. And then it was just a matter of figuring out how to upload their music into Disco, and we'd rebuild their playlists and then teach them how to use Disco. And it's like a total change in the way that you think about how you organize. Everyone's like, oh, I've got all my folders and folders and folders and folders, or I scroll to do a search in iTunes. Disco just doesn't work like that. It's much more like Google. And so that was always hard. But so through that process, I like Jordan said, I trained thousands of these different people across the industry, and then it sort of moved out of sync and into A&R teams, and we've got radio promoters and radio stations and what have you using it. It's just kind of growing and growing. So I'll share things that I know and have learnt that the industry has taught me, and we've kind of helped mold a new way of working, I suppose. But it's all been based off of what people do already, and just optimizing, how do we just make it more efficient and more effective and easier. And then I moved back to New Zealand at the end of 2020 because of various diseases and pandemics. And I'm here now. But I just got back to South by Southwest for the first time since then, which was really nice to see America in not quite the same state.
Yeah, a little different now, back to the old ways as much as possible.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's great.
kind of a long story, but here I am.
No, that's really cool how you got started, and that you were an artist yourself. So I'm sure, that helped as you were developing things because you knew what was needed. So yeah, that's a great way to start something like this, I feel. And it does
Definitely.
feel like, from using Disco myself as an artist, and I think I could speak for others for this too. It's like, it really did feel like that was missing. Like, it was just something that I didn't know existed until I discovered more people involved with sync. And then it was like, oh, I wish I had a place to keep my music and to like organize things and get all the metadata worked out. And then it existed, which was cool. But it really does feel like the only thing that is like that that's out there right now for artists and supervisors also. Yeah, so it's really great platform, and I'm grateful for it. So thank you for starting it.
I'm glad that you found it. That's the funny
Yeah.
thing. It's very word of mouth. Like we really haven't ever marketed.
Mm.
We're supposedly going to start doing that at some point, but it's literally just been, oh, you should check this thing out. And then we just go to events and people are like, oh, hey, you should meet Tim from Disco. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I've heard about Disco, you know, and it just sort of, the way people talked about it slowly changed.
that's
Oh,
really
it's
cool.
the
Yeah,
standard, you know. Yeah.
that's a good sign. People talking about it and using it, and it's nice if you don't have to do much marketing to get things going.
Well, you know, the best products should just be a logical choice, you know. You don't
Yeah.
want, like, I've never had to sell, I'd never want someone to have Disco or pay for things in Disco that they shouldn't or don't need, you know, like it's never ever been a, oh, you got to get this thing because it's going to make your life great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they've figured that out for themselves. Should we jump in and have a look at it and sort of go through?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
share my screen.
Cool.
Um, and feel free, I saw there was a question about plans, which I can go into a bit of that as
Yeah, we
well.
can take questions after this. So everybody, feel free to drop your questions, and now I'll collect them, or if you can wait till the end.
Perfect. Okay, so let's just wind it back. So this is inside Disco. I'm sure quite a few of you probably have it already. So I'll kind of go through it um, as smoothly as possible. Uh, Browse is this home part of Disco. It's where everything goes when you save it. These are playlists. Playlists are sort of the core of Disco's organization. They're folders. They have files inside of them. The playlist creator is here on the right. So this is where we upload files, and it's where we build new playlists. If we want to send, if I want to send one track to somebody, I can put it in a playlist. Here is a track share option, but usually I recommend putting it in a playlist because playlists have all these other features like stats, who has viewed and streamed and downloaded which tracks in my playlist. So as we say playlists, they just land in this browse area, and it's not organized. It's just an endless list. Usually it's chronological is the most, makes the most sense. But that's what's happening here. And it's kind of like the home place in Disco. And when you upload files or tracks, I guess, so a track in Disco is just this thing you're interacting with. Behind it could be a photo, a document, a video, obviously audio. And you will notice that you can save different kinds and upload different kinds of files, which I'll get into some of the processing stuff, which can be confusing. This track has got an AIF and an MP3 sitting behind it. So when we say track, we don't necessarily mean audio and we don't necessarily mean like MP3. We just mean you're interacting with a track, and it's this thing in Disco that's got settings and it's got an info hover and various other bits and pieces. And when we share tracks between Discos, both of the files, if there are two, like a high res file and an MP3, they both travel. That's one of the great advantages of the system, is that we're pairing together high resolution and streaming sized audio. So people can take, you know, do what they want with it. They've got what they need. I think that's the thing that I always talk about is this industry, especially sync, or frankly any part of any industry, it's about making other people's lives easier. So when we're pitching, especially for sync, we're trying to make the music supervisor's life easier. Same if we're sending to radio, and we make their life easier by giving them everything that they need up front, whether that's data and information or if it's the files they might need. So I'll get a bit further into that. Anyway, tracks all appear in the track view. As soon as you upload some files, they all appear over here. So this is like the ocean of files, if you like. And then playlists are like little buckets that have been pulled out of that ocean. But you can use the same track in a billion playlists. You click on a track, you can see some information about it. There is an auto tagger, which is part of the discovery suite, which we can talk about a bit later. And it tags tracks, and those tags appear here. So that one just got tagged, and there are all of the track tags. They're native to Disco, and they don't travel on the file. So if I send this to another Disco, it will not have these tags just automatically on it. If it's a music supervisor disco, then it will, because they all have auto tagging turned on just by default. Um, we can see all of the playlists that a track is in. See these names? Those are bad playlist names, AIF and MP3. Uh, your playlist naming is really important because you kind of just come across playlists randomly in disco, because when you click a track, you can see all the playlists. Look, this one's in 31 playlists. And this is central to how we search in disco. And this is what is one of the major selling points, is for teams of people, especially searching for sync. Because how many times have you made a swagger rock playlist for some, car ad or whatever? You've made it 1,000 times. So why would you start from scratch every time, which is what people were doing? Instead, I can click this swagger rock track and see all these playlists it's in, and then start going through those playlists. It's already over here. Oh yeah, that Toyota job we did back in the past. Oh, there's a song that fits. Where's that track been before? The Australia Bank job we did. Okay, so I'm finding these tracks just because they were in other playlists with similar tracks. Because in sync, you're constantly replying to a brief. And the brief requires that you put similar sounding tracks together for the most part. So anyway, that's the center of disco. And if you scroll back and forward in the middle of the screen, you can see this sort of path I've gone down. For an artist, this isn't really that helpful or relevant. The main reason to see this is if you have gone down this rabbit hole, know that you can go backwards and forwards with the arrow keys on your keyboard, or just scrolling, or just click on something and it will refresh. So we upload tracks. As I showed you on the info hover, we can see the different files. So let's just quickly talk about some of these files. Waves, AIFs, and MP3s are probably the most common file types that we see in disco and in sync and in the music industry. FLACs are another one. Funnily enough, we don't see that many FLACs in disco. So I'm just going to ignore them for now, even though they are a good file type. So waves and AIFs. A wave file does not carry metadata. It's really annoying. It's sort of got its own kind of metadata, but it's not the same as an MP3, which has ID3 metadata. AIF files also carry ID3 metadata. So MP3s and AIFs carry this metadata, which is like they're like cargo pants. They've got heaps of pockets, then you can carry all your stuff with you everywhere you go. So that's what you can think of these different fields as: pockets on your cargo pants. Well, waves are more like, active wear that don't have any pants or pockets in their pants to carry stuff around with them. So no matter where you want to take your keys to the gym, you can't, because you got no pockets. And that's what a wave file is like. So when we send it between different platforms, it's not carrying any of the information that we really, really want. I've filled out some of these, but normally this would be completely empty, like so. Okay, if I uploaded this wave fresh to disco. But you see there's an MP3 sitting there. If I look at the info hover, wave and MP3. We automatically make that MP3 as soon as you upload the wave. Two reasons for that. One, streaming. A wave is 10 times bigger than an MP3 generally. So it takes way more bandwidth, and it's just not going to stream on most internet connections. So anyway, we make that MP3 so that we can stream this audio. And secondly, we make the MP3 so that we can add metadata to this track in disco and have that wave just sitting behind it. So when I'm looking at this metadata area here, it's actually the MP3, not the wave that I'm looking at. And if I fill this all out and I share this track just on a disco playlist, they can download the MP3 if they want, or if they share, here's a disco playlist, right? I can choose which file to download, or I can save to disco, and all of these files are saving to my disco at the same time. So the MP3 and the wave. This is a pro plan, and there's a converter that also makes AIFs out of waves and waves out of AIFs, which is just a convenience tool. It actually makes it the second I click on it, though. So just for now, just think about this as an MP3 and a wave. If I save to disco, both those files go to the disco. So we've got that high res wave, which is high quality. I need that for the edit. It's what you're putting on CDs and when you're releasing your music. But that MP3 is carrying all that very important and helpful metadata. Let's look at some important and helpful metadata. So this is a filled out track, and the metadata, like I say, it's traveling with the files. And things like iTunes read ID3 metadata, and programs like Meta and various different systems can read and write ID3, which is the sort of standard or specific language of metadata. And that's what we're dealing with in Disco. And just, the lyrics are one of the fields that's part of that standard. So metadata and lyrics, these fields are both traveling when we share these files. Fill out your lyrics. Okay, so let's just think about why we want to fill out metadata in the first place. One is that it's the very basic and core information about the track. What's the title of our track? Who's the artist? What's the album? That's one. Artwork makes it look nicer. This is no artwork, and then these ones have artwork. They just stand out more and make it look better next to other tracks. So adding artwork just, it gives you more of a feel for what's this track all about. So we want to make sure our metadata is clean. Often if you upload a wave file and it's like the 17th master and what have you, it's going to have all of this rubbish at the end, underscore wave master 20,000 billion something, blah, 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 blah. And it's all really not helpful information. So think about how clean each field is. And where should you put certain things? So explicit, instrumental, featured artists, that all goes in the title, because we want our artist field to be clean. So don't put featured artists in the artist field. And it's really about this sort of that core performer that is the main person that this is being released under or by, is what should be in the artist field. Disco makes artist profiles, and it uses this text to create the profile name. So if I had the chicks featuring Prince, or something, that's going to be one profile. And if I have another track and it's the chicks featuring Elton John, then that's another artist profile, and so on and so on. So any difference in this field is going to create these different artist profiles, which we use to link to Disco pages, which is a presentation template. I don't want those featured artists here because I just need one profile for the checks, and those featured artists are really specific to the title. Okay, so we just want clean metadata. Why else do we want to send metadata? Because it's searchable. All of this text is searchable, including the lyrics. So if I'm a music supervisor and I get this track and I save it to my Disco, and then a year later I'm doing a search and I need very specific lyric magic that I should, and look, my track came up in the search. Well, if I didn't take the second that it takes to fill out my lyrics, I didn't come up in that supervisor's search out of the hundreds of thousands of tracks that they've got in their Disco account or their iTunes or wherever it is they search. And so I missed out. So we're helping our future self by putting good metadata into these files. The odds of supervisors opening your email are quite low, unfortunately, okay? Because they receive hundreds of emails every day from heaps of different people. They know quite some of those people, and those are the priorities, because they always are going to go for what they recognize, because it's about trust. Supervisors have this enormous pressure on them to make sure that they have the legal right to clear this music and use it in that ad or that film or that TV show. If they screw that up and they don't actually get all of the rights, the publishing and the master clear, they personally can be in extremely deep bad things that you don't want to be deep in. And they can be sued. And I have a supervisor friend that nearly had a very, very hard time with a massively big shot attorney in the States that just decided they just changed their mind. This track's no longer clearable. We need twice as much money. You know, there's a bunch of estates that are managed by attorneys basically who don't give a crap about sync or any of this stuff. And, like she's got, Disney on one side and this attorney on the other side. And it was all good, but then this thing changed, and then it wasn't all good. But that track was in this thing that was being released, and that was going to be her problem. Fortunately, some people managed to basically put their personal relationships on the line and get it sorted out. But a supervisor is at risk. So we're trying to make their life as easy as possible and make them feel as comfortable as possible dealing with us as complete strangers that they've never met, don't know anything about. I might not own any of this music, right? And a way to show that I understand what licensing actually entails from a legal standpoint and what is at risk is for me to be very clear about what the rights are. So who controls the publishing? How many writers are there? What are their splits? What performing rights organization are they associated with? Do they have publishers? Who is the contact at that publisher? So if you're giving them that level of information, or are you helping them because you're giving them contact information if they have to clear rights from other people? But you're also showing that you really understand that they need to clear those other rights, and they should be able to see that those other people are involved in your metadata. If it's just you 100% everything, that's amazing. Spelling it out is what you want to do. So in this case, we have 100% of the publishing, 100% of the master. This isn't, I don't need to say easy, but it's, well, it is easy, one-stop clearance, but just one stop equals easy anyway. And that's the contact for it. Now, if we've got other tracks with other, the publishing is 50% Sony publishing and 50% Cobalt, and the master's 100% Island. We want to spell that out. And if we have contact information for the licensing parties, we can put it in there. Although every territory, it's going to be different anyway. So not necessarily as important. If there's a writer that controls their own rights that you can't clear on behalf of, definitely putting their contact information in is going to be really, really helpful. So clearance information shows you know what you're talking about and that you respect their time and what they are going through in their day-to-day. And then the other thing you can put in here is creative information. Now, these are the track tags. I said before, the track tags do not travel on your files. Well, they don't in this tags area, but there's a setting that can write them as a string of text, which is what this is, a string, one long sentence, of comma separated values. And it can just be dropped into the bottom of the comments metadata field because it is a field that travels. So we have to put that information somewhere that will travel on the file. Yeah, is another useful bit of information, especially if you've got some older catalog. Often they're like, I need something from 1983. Again, that's searchable. I'm in my search bar. I'm going to the year field. I just want to search the year is between 1981 and 1982 or 3 or whatever. If I didn't fill out the year field, I'm not coming up in the search. All right. Nothing in this account for that. So, a supervisor can sort by and filter by all these different things. Genre. So we've got our metadata field genre, but we also have the tag field or tag category of genre as well. So in our track tags, there's genre. Again, though, this isn't traveling, and they wouldn't be able to divide out by genre if that's just sitting in the comments. So there is the metadata field genre. Just put a couple of genres and put actual genres. Don't pack it full of random descriptors. If you want the descriptive information, put it in the comments field, especially if they're going into iTunes. Sometimes they sort by genre, and if there's heaps of genres on a track, it can be really messy. And there's certain supervisors that are like insane about that kind of organization. It's always fun to meet these different kinds of people and what's important. So genre should be genres. I don't know if hypno rock is actually a genre, but today it is. BPM can be helpful as well in some cases. The auto tagger, if you have the Discovery Suite, will automatically add BPM for you. Otherwise, put it in there. ISRC, not as important necessarily, but by the time it comes to clearing, it will be needed potentially, and it's going to help you as a with your publishing and what have you. You want to track where your ISRCs are appearing. All right, and then lyrics. Of course, I mentioned that already. Say do a lyric search, you want it in there, and it helps for your presentation. Grouping field always confuses people. Usually, I just say, and you can use it however you want, but generally put your control into the grouping field. So I control 50% of the publishing. I will put that into the grouping. Other people have the other 50% of the publishing and the master. That stuff's all going to be in the comments, but grouping just for your own, what they can clear with you, is probably the easiest way. And like the grouping field, it's cut off, right? There's more information here, but I can't see it all. So it's kind of stupid to fill it with information when they're never going to see it anyway. So fill out your comments. That's like, if you need lots of information, frankly, it's just clearer in the comments. I'll repeat this information in the comments anyway. And there used to be all these issues with grouping in iTunes as well. Like iTunes changed what the grouping field even is, and that, confused people for about 100 years. Okay, let's look at presentation because we're getting on with time. I'm going to show you how to make a disco page, which is a newer feature in disco. There was a question about plans. There were old plans that we had when we first started disco, and they were basically like, you can have 2 users and 2,500 tracks, you can have 5 users and 10,000 tracks, and it was this combined thing. And it was it was so annoying because people were like, oh well, I've got 5 users but I only need 3,000 tracks, and we kept doing all these custom deals, which was a disaster. So we just changed it. We're like, we're changing these plans. There's 3 feature sets, and then you can choose how many users and how many tracks you've got, and they've got their individual prices. There are still a lot of users on those legacy plans, and on the 20th of April or thereabouts, we're ending them, and everyone is going to be switched automatically to a new plan that is the closest thing to what they're currently on. The Plus is almost the same sort of deal for the most part, but there's all these features that are not on any of those legacy plans. So we were releasing new things, but they only got released to new plans. So when you switch over to your new plan, you're going to have access to this thing called Disco Pages. And this is what a disco page looks like. Well, this is a disco page, and we'll go through it. So there's a big hero image you can add. And this one is specifically as an album page or a release page. It's focused around a release. So it's got an artwork area for the release artwork. You can put in a bio or press release, social media links, your contact information. This is the body of the playlist. There are some sections here. I'll show you how to make sections. I have added the instrumentals. We always put in the instrumentals when we are pitching for sync, because you might be a great lyricist and a beautiful singer, but it might not work for what's going on in that scene or that ad, but the track is perfect. So they just need the instrumental version. Your music is not finished or ready to go until you have bounced instrumentals and mastered them. Should just be part of the process. Always do it, and always share the instrumentals with the main tracks when you're pitching. That's, again, we're making the supervisor's life easier. If someone else shared their instrumentals and you did not, the supervisor is going to make a decision. Do I have time to write to that person and ask for the instrumental, or should I just use this one that's right here in my hand all ready to go? They're busy people. They don't have time to mess around. If they desperately want that track, they're going to chase you down for it. But more often than not, there are other people up for the same placement and they might have been more prepared than you. So be be prepared, do the homework, get it done. 100 tracks, I swear to God, I could set up 100 track catalog in like 15 minutes with every single thing that it needs. So y'all can do it. Just take the time. um, Media files. So we've got some photos here in Disco. You can add photos, documents, videos, whatever you want. You can watch them and you can read them. So it's worth storing them. So think of Disco as a place to store all of the assets that you use when you're interacting with the music industry. On this page, we can embed a single video, and it can be a YouTube video, a Vimeo video, or a file that we uploaded to Disco. In this case, that is a file that was uploaded to Disco. This specific Disco, obviously. You can upload zips with your stems. One more step to be especially helpful to people. You don't have to share the stems with everything that you send. Just get the instrumentals in there. But know that you can store zips of stems, and they don't even count towards your track count. And then they're there ready to go when you need to share them. You can store sessions. You can zip up a session from like Ableton or whatever and put it in Disco. So lots of things. We've got all our download options. Oops. Download options, save to Disco, more formats. So save to Disco, download everything. Okay. That's what a page looks like. Let's quickly build one, and then I'll talk about a few more features that you should definitely utilize. We'll make a really simple version here. Well, look here, I'm going to go clear goodbye. I can just drag a playlist across and it copies it just drags the tracks over. I'm not editing this playlist. I'm not doing anything to it. I'm just stealing its tracks. So this is an untitled new playlist, which is the bass EP. Add a section. So a section is just a dividing line when you're here, but we saw it was a collapsible folder here. And I'll put one for my media files. And everything's drag and drop. If you didn't realize, you can just drag your tracks around to rearrange them. All right, I'm going to put the stems there. Save. So as we start to save a playlist, it gives us all of these settings. So remember I said playlists are the kind of key storage and organization folder in Disco, and it's also the basic sharing package, I suppose, because it's got all these great settings. So one thing you might do is make it a streaming only playlist, which gets rid of all of the download options. If you wanted to watermark, it costs money to add watermarking, just the same as it does the Discovery Suite. You can turn those on. Those are the main things. Album is another type of playlist. So see up here in the background, playlists, tracks, albums. We can tell Disco that this is an album. It's still a playlist, but we're kind of defining it as an album, and that is for presentation on libraries. We can choose to add albums or playlists, and they look slightly different. So that's what that's all about. Let's get to presentation. Default playlist is the original OG Disco playlist design, where you can just change the background with a theme, the background and logo image. But we are building an album page. So there's where we add our album artwork. Let's just quickly find some artwork. All right. And then here's where the artist profiles come in. So that's the other thing here. Artists in the background. As I said, we make profiles based on the metadata field, the artist metadata field. So we're going to choose, well, it's not the checks, it's erasing. By doing that, that artist profile, I could have already filled out some things. Like I could have added an image to it already and a bio. So it is going to pull that from the profile automatically, but I can put a different image here if I want to. Right now, I'm just going to leave it with the default that's in there on that profile. Here's my bio, social links. You can also edit these on the profile. And so it's ready to go automatically. And this is what's in my actual playlist. So that's just literally this stuff here. Video. So here we've got the options, YouTube, Vimeo, Disco. We'll just choose that one. So you could search for videos that are in your Disco account and they'll come up here. And let's save that. Showing lyrics. I always want to show my lyrics so that people can read them. And there's my page. So it's pretty straightforward. It's just a template that you fill out and then here it is. Inboxes. I want to make sure you guys are using inboxes. So this is the way to receive files. This is the other huge thing that saved all of the time in the world for music supervisors that are receiving a bazillion things from everyone in the world all the time. So they brief out, hey, everybody, please send me some tracks for this job I'm working on, upload them on this page, or drop your disco playlist onto this page. So this is my inbox page. When I drag files here from my computer and hit send, it creates a playlist in the inbox where this link came from. So I'm in the team inbox. There's the link. And when people hit send, it makes playlists here in the inbox. Then I can instantly listen to those tracks, put them into playlists, tag them, do whatever I want. That's fun. So that is what the inboxes are for. When you hit save to disco on a playlist, it goes into your personal inbox, which is this one. It's related to your login and no one else on your team can see what's in it, but everyone can see what's in your team inbox. If you've got disco and you see one of these pages, make a playlist, get the share URL, and then paste it here. Let's go look at some share URLs. So you don't have to upload if you've got disco. You can just put a disco playlist on this page and hit send. Every playlist has a share area. So you can email from disco, you can assign URLs to people, or you can just copy and share this one. Now, this confuses some people. It says public playlist URL. It's not public. And actually, this is a really important point. When you put files in your disco, nobody has access to them. Only you have access. Nobody can search your disco, okay? They're not universally searchable. Other supervisors can't search your disco. That's not how it works. It's more like it's your hard drive or it's your Google Drive or it's your Dropbox account. Some people sign up for disco thinking, oh, I can sign up and then I'll put music in it and then supervisors will find my music. That's not what is happening here. It's just a tool for you to store your music so you can access it from anywhere and share it. And here is a way to share it. So this is the public playlist URL. It's not searchable. It's not publicly available. It is just a link that you can share. And it's the thing that the outside world interact with. It's like a micro website hosted in your disco. And that's the link to it, as opposed to the internal playlist URL, which is going to open inside your disco. So if I shared it with someone on my team and they clicked it, it would come in and this is what they would see. Bang, that playlist is open. It's useless to share with someone outside of your disco account. So non-team members. So don't share the internal URL. People do it all the time. And it just, someone outside of your disco, they click on it and it takes them to a login page. And then they're trying to log into your disco and they can't. Direct download, they never see the playlist. When this link is clicked, a zip is immediately downloaded. And so that's going to piss off any supervisor that's on disco because they don't want to download anything. They want to save to disco. Downloading is not for fun. And that's a good question, Carls. Okay, so let's look at the libraries quickly. We're not really doing much curation. This has sort of been put on pause at the moment. So the Discovery Suite is the answer to, can somebody search my disco? I want to share my disco so that other people can search it. So we built disco libraries and we built auto tagging so that the libraries were searchable immediately. those two things come together as the Discovery Suite, and it's like this add-on package that you do have to pay extra for, but it's got its own quota. So if you've got a 10,000 track base plan, you can have a 250 track Discovery Suite for $10 a month. So it's not, you don't have to have your whole thing matched. A disco library looks like this. So like this little website, you can change the banner and the logo and the name and all that. You choose exactly what tracks are on it, which playlists are on it, which albums are on it. And remember, albums are a type of playlist that we can define. They appear with square artwork. Playlists have this rectangular artwork, which is made up basically of the tracks inside the playlist. And then you've got artist profiles, which we can edit. That's why they also exist as a thing. All of it's searchable. We can play it and scrub through the waveform. We can search using the tags. So you want to tag the tracks that are on your library so that they are searchable. Just so you know, the search bar works like Disco search bar. It's looking through all the metadata and all the tags and playlists and what have you. Lyrics will show up in context as well, which is kind of cool. So it's showing that the actual lyrics. Supervisors. So you build libraries and then you share them with music supervisors, but they can also access them from inside their accounts. So one of the settings is, sorry, I'll just log in. Where is it? So music supervisors, there's about 900 supervisors on Disco. We know who they are because we give them special plans, and therefore we can turn on special features for them, and this is one of them. So it's called the Discover area or whatever. It's kind of, we don't even have a good name for it. And in here, there are libraries that have opted in to be here. So when you build a library in the settings, you can choose whether or not it appears in this area. And so they can find it, they can click through on the library, and then they can do a search and they can find music. But they have to go to the library to do a search and then pull the tracks. When they search in here, there is a search bar. It's looking for libraries, not tracks. So there's not an aggregated mega disco search. There will be one day. But right now, if I type in trailer, it's looking for libraries with the description trailer. Or it's just going to find the library name, Future Classic. So there's like 1,000 libraries in here. So again, getting Disco and getting the Discovery Suite and publishing a library doesn't equal syncs. The odds are still basically just the same as everyone else. It's all about building relationships. It's all about outreach, and it's all about how many times a week are you being pitched or pitching for opportunities. That's the only way to get syncs. There isn't a passive, I mean, there is luck, but you can buy lotto tickets as well. Same thing. So we were doing this sort of curated playlist thing, which is kind of on pause at the moment. I haven't actually had a catch up about what's going on with it for a while. So supervisors can access this from inside their Disco. That is what the discovery area is, and that is what the settings in here, when you've built out a library, you can choose. I just have to make it published first. Private means it's not in that area. And I can share the library with whoever I want, and they can have access to it, and I give them permission to have access. If I go limited access, it will appear in that discovery area, but they have to request the ability to download files. It's not automatic, okay? If I make it easy access, they don't have to make that request to me. We mostly recommend easy access because we don't want to put barriers in front of supervisors and our music. So that's what those settings are. I run this whole course. Every week I do the School of Disco 101. You can get to the School of Disco from here, from this question mark, School of Disco. And I'm going to put it into a new site. This is kind of clumsy at the moment, but it's just this database of articles and things. But look, sign up for a Disco 101 class. This thing's going to appear. Calendly. So you can find dates that suit. So it's New Zealand time. It's 2 p.m. Pacific, basically, on Wednesdays. And we're about to launch the UK time which is going to be the morning in New York. 4 a.m. in New Zealand. No thanks, I won't be there. Someone else will do it. There's this whole playlist of videos, so you can just go here and watch. Essentially, you can choose a section on what you're looking at. I want to learn about inboxes. Watch a video about inboxes. So this playlist is just full of how to use Disco. Or you can go to the bottom here, and we've got these different sets of articles. So everything about files and metadata. You can dive in and read articles all about this stuff. I've really blared on quite a lot here. Why don't we go to questions?
Thank you so much. That was all great information. I'm sure a lot of us were wondering about a lot of that stuff. So thank you for going through it. So great to see. I have a couple questions that I've collected. Maybe we just try to get through a couple of them in the last couple minutes. And then if anybody has questions lingering, please email us because we can help get those answered for you. So you can just email us at hello@pandionmusicfoundation.org, or reach out over Facebook or anything is fine.
And also, if it's really Disco specific, you can just write to our support anytime and ask questions.
Cool. Yeah, the Disco support has been great, what I've experienced. They're very quick at responding. I'm just going to go through an order from when I received them. So let's see. Okay, yeah, so someone was asking about the monthly plans, but maybe I'll leave that one since you're changing those anyways. So that'll be something that will...
The best thing to do if you just want to learn about plans is go to your billing and subscriptions tab, or go to DISCO.ac/pricing. And then you can see the differences between our plans and what have you. There isn't an absolutely perfect switch between a legacy plan and these new ones. The closest is usually Plus, though. But here, look, you can see this whole grid. All right. But there's the information.
Awesome. Great. And then someone was asking if you could clarify the other thing. I think there were maybe 2 things you mentioned to put into the title field besides like explicit and featuring. Was there something else?
Instrumental, remix, a cappella. So which version of the mix is it? I guess is the other major thing that's going to go in there. Yeah.
Cool. Great. And then somebody gave a little example of something that they experienced recently. Said something came up when they tried to write in 100% share of publishing on the manager writers page of an album. I guess somebody said, "Sum of splits cannot be higher than 100% for the track ID. Please check the existing splits of the track before trying to apply this split." Could you tell me where I went wrong? I own 100% of my publishing. I have my own publishing company and 100% of the master.
Yes. So the writers tab is relatively useless as far as I'm concerned. I have a publishing company, and this is kind of a joke to look at. So don't worry too much about it. If it wasn't letting you write 100%, then maybe like theoretically it was only going to stop you doing that if you had something else here. That's the only thing I could think of. So I just maybe make sure you delete anything else that was already there. Yeah, don't worry. Like, it's just about the writer's split. So if you wrote the song 100%, then all you need to put here is my name 100%. But it's like, if you're the only person in here, then there's no point in filling this out. I'd just go straight to the composer field and put Tim 100%. Yeah, like if you need to keep track of other writers and their publishing companies and PROs, that's sort of what this is useful for. Adding their IPI number into their name is also kind of helpful. Again, this is more for internal stuff. This doesn't travel outside your Disco. It's just for your own records. PRO number that is ISWC. It really should just be called ISWC. So hopefully that helps.
Cool.
If it was right to support, if for some reason you had nothing here and it won't let you write 100 into that space, because that sounds like some kind of weird error. Yeah.
Cool. Great. Well, thank you again so much for doing all this, and thank you everyone for being here. Um, Again, you can reach out on your Disco account. There's a little spot in the bottom right hand corner for to reach support if you need. Right there. Yeah.
A little chat.
Yeah, and they're
Awesome.
very quick. So if you have any follow-up questions, and feel free to reach out to us if you need to. But thank you again, everybody. Thanks, Tim. That was
Thank you
awesome.
for having me. Yeah,
So
really nice
lovely.
to see you all. And come along to a class.
Yes, definitely check
I
that out.
basically cover the same stuff, maybe slightly more concisely, who knows. But
This was pretty concise.
always happy to
Great.
have people along.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Thank
All right.
you.
Have a good rest of your day.
Ciao.
See ya.